Hello, my name is Ahuurra, Managing Director, Quad A Records. I'm also an audio engineer, composer, producer, mixer, and I do quite a lot of things in the audio fraternity with Quad A. Quad A is a production company, an audio production company that provides audio solutions for multiple industries. And we want to rebrand Africa, change the narrative, change perception that good content can't come from Africa. We want to change that perception through sound. In particular today, I want to share with you the approach that I take when I'm composing music for any content. You can apply some of these ideas as you compose music for different content. Today we're going to be working with a TV ad that we did a while back. It was directed by Loukman Ali. The client was GoTV. The first thing that is very, very crucial is, one, we need to understand the client's vision. So when Loukman came in and sat down with us, he gave us the first draft, the first first edit that he had done. And from there, we started to ask him questions about what his expectations about the TV ad generally were in terms of holistically from the visual side and audio side, because once we know that, we know how the audio can support the visuals. So we asked him holistically what the vision was, and he shared with us. He also gave us his expectations in terms of the audio, what he needs in terms of audio. The client had previously gone with, I hope we'll not get a strike for this, but for playing this online. But the client had asked us to play one of Afrigo's very old songs. So when he came with that, he expressed to us that the music that the client had gotten was not working for what he had edited and what the vision was. So he wanted us to put a cinematic kind of, not really cinematic, but for us to compose music to the picture, but having that Afrigo song in mind. So that was the first expectation he had. He also had the second expectation. He wanted us to make sure that at each section, the music keeps giving us a new feel, because we're going to see the edit, and at each point there are different places that evoke different emotions. So he wanted the music to be very dynamic, and of course he talked about the sound effects and the Foley. That has been covered, but today we want to cover the music. I'll quickly just play for you the edit. Okay, here we go. That's it. So that's how we received the cut. Now, you may be hearing a tick tock, and we call that a metronome. One of the things that we have developed with Loukman is he edits to time, and that is so helpful for us when we're composing music, because that means we're going to all the edits that we're going to do are going to be on time and in tempo. So for this particular one, we were working with 142, but also we developed the tempo from the previous song, from the Afrigo song. So that tempo was derived out of the 142, so that we do not lose the tempo as we go along. So the idea was to start with a Afrigo song in the bass, and as we keep going on, the music changes to match the different characters' emotions in the advert. So that's why we decided to start with the tempo of the Afrigo song into what we were going to then compose. So that's one of the things that has to be determined, the tempo for the picture that you're going to score to. Because once you score and you compose music and it doesn't match what people are seeing, sometimes it's the downbeats and the mood don't sync quite well. So it's very, very important for you to establish the tempo of the edit, or the tempo of what you're seeing on screen, of the performance, so that as you compose music, they're in sync. So once we got the tempo, we then went ahead to begin to develop the idea of what each character, what does this advert embody. So it's basically an East African kind of advert. So the director wants us to have that African feel, and he wanted us to maintain many of the ideas that came from the Afrigo side. So once that was known, then we began to ask ourselves, what are some of the key elements in the Afrigo song? So in the Afrigo song, the thing that stands out is a marimba. And right now here I'll show you what the instrument that I used to play the marimba. So initially I had played the marimba, and it sounded something like this. I'll come back to why it's muted and not in. So just to recap, we have gotten the client's vision, we've gotten the director's notes, we have established the tempo, and now we are beginning to understand the character of the advert generally. What is the character? What does the client want at the end of us composing? What do they want to feel at the end? So for us, it was that African village and yet suburban feel. This is the marimba that stands out so much in the Frigo song. This is what I had initially done. Okay, so that's the melody line I had played throughout, from the beginning to the end, because this is the good thing with the edit. The edit it's been edited on tempo, which is 142. So even as we cut through the different scenes, the slow motions still are edited to the tempo. So that's why we don't have very many drastic changes in tempo and changes in speed. However, we have different changes at different segments within the ad. For example, when he's in the bus, and then when he's in the bus, we're going to start with the Afrigo song. So when we are out of the bus and we start to get to the other characters, we then get to start our version of the Afrigo song. So it starts with an arpeggio. So these are triplets right here. And if you could look at the color coding at this, when I was playing them, I was really playing them energy and some high tones and mid tones. So that's when they're fishing. Gets the ball, silence, then now they start to play. Now, if you can watch at this point, this is how we are scoring to picture. At this point, we are in the boat, and then there is a stop in time when he hits the ball. So these are just some of the ideas that I started to develop as I began to compose. Like as he's bringing his hand, he will stop so that the music will also stop at that point. Then we have sound effects take over. And I will stop. This point is very, very crucial, because you need to, that's why in the beginning we need to first have all the departments meet together so that we can establish what every department is going to contribute towards the success of this. So you can clearly see that at this point the music goes down. So we decided that let the sound effects at that point take over, and later on we shall look at the full ad, and then we see how we achieved that. So the music stops there, then both high, mid tones and the really low tones starts to play as they play football. Still in an arpeggio. Now, when we go to the market, we still have another dynamic that changes. The high tones go out. So each section that is being played has a different character played by the marimba. So when we start fishing has its own character. When we go to football, when they're playing football, that's its own character. Then when we go down to the market, it's slow, because now the reason for us even going low is because I know that sound effects probably here are going to take over with the market. I know that there's going to be a crowd of people in the market. So when we go there, I leave space for that crowd with the taking out. So everything that we're doing here is a dance with frequencies. We know we don't want to fight so much with the sound effects. We don't want to fight so much with the Foley. We don't want to fight so much. Now, this ad didn't have a lot of dialogue. So that's that's why sometimes I was risking and playing the full the full spectrum of the marimba. But I know that at this point we're going to have a market. Then here we're going to have school. And listen to the school. Listen how it changes from the market to the school. So you can see there is at school, I don't play them as hard. You see, so when I'm playing hard, you will see orange and red predominant in the notes. But as I cool down, I will go towards green into the purple, green into purple. So right now I'm playing it softly because this boy has just been bullied, and though he doesn't get why he's being bullied. Now at this point I change for an upcoming transition of this when he's after they've played football, he goes back home after buying the GoTV right on his back there. So from here, so everyone is going back home. So the going back home theme continues from these boys. The ladies are going back home. The father has come back from the bus, from the trip, into this. Now we're entering the village scene. Now he has come back home. Now at this point I knew that we had to be very emotional, because even with how the director shot it in slow motion to evoke an emotion. And I'll come to why I keep going down and leaving space up. Basically, it's because you want maybe another instrument to speak or to accentuate that emotion. So at that point, when I go down, I'm allowing for another instrument to take over in the upper region. Very softly, when they are at home, they give him his present very softly. Now, another thing you should take note is that I also reduce the intensity of notes played within a bar. Like for example, at this point, because there's a rush, everyone is going home, there is an urgency. Then time slows down. Also the notes slow down. So they don't actually slow down, but you play less notes in a given bar. And so let's say that so if this is a bar, so one. So right now we're working with a time signature of 4/4 right now. At this part, I started playing less notes. Forgive me for these off-time notes, but I started playing less notes to evoke the emotion. So at that point, I knew why. Someone may ask, why did I play only the high notes on the marimba? It's because I knew that at this point, since it's the climax, I'm going to have instruments playing notes down here. So for us not to get cloggy and for it to get overwhelmingly muddy, I decided that the top parts are the ones that are focused on, and then other instruments will focus on the low end. So this can briefly show you the thought process of using the major instrument that embodies the character of the ad. That in itself is scoring to picture. You're getting an element that grounds the content you're composing music for home. So for us in Africa, that xylophone feel and how it's played grounds you that, oh, we are home in Africa. So that was the first idea that I made once I got to know the director's vision and what they wanted to achieve, especially having a song from Afrigo, also having the marimba. The next, because in Africa we're highly percussive. Because we're highly percussive, my next thought process was, after having the melody, we need to get the rhythm section going, because once you have the rhythm section, it identifies that African home village feel. So one of the instruments that I used was West African. These are the different drums in this section, and so what I had to do is edit them in terms of getting a pattern, and each key triggers a different pattern. Okay, so this is how I used the rhythm section within the ad. So remember that at the first point, we're having the Afrigo song playing. Then at this point, we start remember that I told you that time stops. At that point, we decided that we should let the sound effects take over. So everything stops at that point. And play that again. Stop to bring in the emotional part at school, then comes back again when the friend has made okay. Time stops, then starts again. He's being bullied. Then we take it to the first pattern. Take it to the second pattern. Then we go to the next level. Then we stop. Something else at that point is going to take over. Then we go back to the emotional part. First pattern. Second pattern. Then into the celebration. You can see You can actually see how the drums are evoking the emotion, especially of the guy on the left. So that was the rhythm section. So another thing that I added on the rhythm section was I wanted to enhance the rhythm section. So with that, I use action strikes. Action strikes is also part of Native Instruments, and I use taiko. Taiko are Chinese big drums. So with them, what I was trying to achieve is to enhance the low end and of each beat. When we are starting a beat, I enhance that beginning. So remember, time stops at that point. So I put that right there to sort of grab the attention of the people watching, and then so you can see how I'm enhancing that downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, just to enhance it, to give it rhythm and a pulse. Then remember, I told you that at this point, when he's being bullied, we soften up. So we don't want to be so heavy in the low end. Then we come back. Then going home. Then, now when the joy starts, I start to frequently play that downbeat. I play it the beginning of the bar and half the bar. So one, 2, and then we end with the bang. The other instrument that in the rhythm section, remember I'm building the rhythm section, is of course when time stops, we need to show that time is stopping, and with a riser. So I put a riser here. It's also from Contact. It's called Rise and Hit. All this comes with the complete kit. So that part gives you it gives you a feel. It gives you a sense of whoa, what's happening. Then we get back into the music. Whenever time stops, I always like putting this riser because it gives time such a character. So that's the reason to why we put that riser there. In the rhythm section, the other instrument that was played were claps. like there's an ensemble of people clapping hands, and it's an African thing really. In all our music, you tend to see people clap hands as they sing. So in this one, I thought it would also be another great character to involve and enhance the rhythm section. So I also use this drum lab from Native Instruments, and this is how it sounds. And the interesting thing about this is I added a delay. I use H delay, and remember I was talking about triplets. So it's a quarter note. I set it to quarter notes, but with a triplet function. So that adds the triplets. If we're to listen to them alone, yeah, so that's what they are playing, and they're enhancing the rhythm section in that way. And the delays are doing they are spreading themselves apart, so they fill those empty parts in the rhythm section. So forgive my cymbals, I put violins instead of drums, but you get the idea. So that's my rhythm section. So he's being bullied. There is no rhythm section in the bullying part. Softly begin to build it up. He reaches home. Slowly keep building it. And actually, it really works well, because even at the end, she begins to clap her hands. So it's as though she joins in the celebration of the GoTV being switched on. Yeah. And that marks the end of our rhythm section. And of course, because we know we're on time, 1:42, and we have the marimba already playing, composed for the melody line, and we have our rhythm section playing at that point. The next instrument, the bass. When the bass comes in, because the bass also is of course marked in the low regions, and so finishing the rhythm section, the next thing to go to for me was the bass. And this is I used the Logic's bass. It's called, I love their Motown, but also session bass, but also Motown. For this project, I used the Motown bass. So with the Motown bass, this is how it sounds. And remember that many of these ideas are coming from the Afrigo song, but then they have been modified to fit the edit. And so this rhythm, the bass is trying to play what the bass was playing in the Afrigo song, the main theme. So whenever someone hears that bass, they'll remember the Afrigo theme. So, but though it was modified to work with this edit. He's being bullied. Then we get into the emotional part. So the celebration, all I'm just doing is accentuating the downbeat. And the reason to why I did this is because I didn't want the score to sound very busy. At that point, I didn't want there to be too much clutter, because the percussion section has a lot going on. Other instruments are going to play quite many things. So I really wanted us to be grounded at that point, just with the downbeat. The next thing is I played the piano. Now, the reason to why I chose piano, this is my thought process. A piano evokes such heavy emotion, and this is a heavily emotional advert. And a piano quickly, when someone plays a piano in a certain way, it can evoke different kinds of emotion depending on how you play it. So for this section, let me just play you what the piano sounds like. So the piano starts when they pick the ball after the time has slowed down. That's the emotional part. Now, at that point, why I stopped playing is because we really get rural with that section. So yet the piano sort of brings in this urban kind of feel. And you can see I softly play the piano at that point when he's being bullied. So I start with quite some bit of energy, then I soften out when he's being bullied. Then, when he reveals his shirt and they're friends, so he's going back home. Now, I started adding more notes in the arpeggio to counter the slow motion. It's quite an interesting effect. So you're having sort of like double time, but with slow motion. It speaks a lot, especially when it comes to an emotional, when you want to evoke the feeling of love and that soothing emotion. There we go again. and that you can see that it gradually increases in terms of excitement up to the end. And so the piano also has different, as you can see, it plays a crucial role in driving the emotion at different places. You cannot play the same thing all through, especially for content like this. You have 30 seconds to tell the audience your story. So the music has to say that story as fast as it can. So with these dynamics in here, focusing on the top end, focusing on the mids and the lows, coming back with adding more notes in the arpeggio, and really building up towards the end. So that is generally how that's how I came up with the piano line. Now playing the rhythm section together with the piano, just for us to listen to how that works, how it sounds. Okay. The next part that I played, normally when I play the piano, I play it because of the emotion it carries. So another thing that really evokes emotions together with the piano can be vocals, a sound of vocals also. So right now, at this point, we have vocals. Together with the piano, they evoke a certain soothing emotion. Let me just play them alone. All my vocals. The choir. I beg your pardon. We have those chords when he throws the ball into the market. Then at that point I stopped playing the choir because I wanted the piano to take over. Then I slowly build it with the piano. Then, of course, I remember telling you at this point I wanted to really stay local, home. So I take out that choir, and from there I keep building it. Then I ground it. Yeah, so that's the choir. You can clearly see what the choir is doing in terms of building those emotions, especially being played in conjunction with the piano. And play those two again. Then we go home. Then switches on the TV, the choir goes into the higher register. I wanted to enhance the choir, so I played another layer of women. It's also from Contact, but these ones have an African sort of it's sort of South African feel to them. It's also from Contact. It's called Sing Sang. So how I used Sing Sang is I played it at specific points, not throughout. So the main choir, this was the main choir, the previous one. This is coming just to enhance the choir section. So I start with this low note. Just to cause tension as we have the riser coming through, just to cause some bit of tension, like what is it going to do with this ball? Why is he holding it like this? Yeah, so if you just listen to that. So that's what it has just come to do. Now the next part, the Sing Sang comes again, is here towards the end. Let me play maybe from back so you see how it builds to that point. That's just at that point it just builds up to the end, and it really gives you that triumph kind of, I've gotten the decoder and I'm watching with my family. I also built the end with more choirs just to keep enhancing it, and all these. So why I add all these different layers of choirs is just to bring different characters as we're telling the story. And you see, they're not playing all choirs are not playing out throughout the recording. They only play at specific points. And because they are at specific points, they ingest different characters as you see in the picture. So at this point, I added another layer of choir, and this, just listening to them alone. Yeah, then we go home, then they come back again. So listening to all the choirs together. With the piano. Then switches on the TV. So right there is my emotion layer. So to bring out the emotion in the ad, I played the piano and the choir section, and to bring out the rhythm in the ad, first played the marimba, which is the basis. It's the ground of what we're doing. Then I play the rhythm section, which is composed of the drums and the bass. Then I come to the emotional layer, which is the piano and the choir. And now, right now, I'm just fine-tuning. I'm just adding in one more layer of melody at specific points. And the instruments I used was this Chinese flute to add that layer. It sounds like a ndingidi. Yeah, it's quite. It adds that feel, that sweet feel in the music. So I played it there and I put it there to just give more character to these different scenes. Then the next time it plays, that's when he's back in the village. So I also played it for him to stand out, this gentleman in red. So the next time it comes back again is when he has reached home. He's going home. Yeah. So that I just put that there to just give another layer of emotion and richness. I always encourage add something that is unique, that is will always be memorable. And now, instead of playing the marimba, I switched from having the normal marimba to this instrument because of its character and tone. It sounds like a guitar, but also has a marimba feel. And of course, I put some delay on it so that it can, with the triplets, so that it can fill out some of those gaps. Has such a beautiful character. So that's why I muted the marimba, because the marimba would sound normal, but I used this with such interesting character so that it's memorable. You will not pass it. So let me play. This is exactly what I played with a marimba, but toned down. So beautiful. So that whenever you hear that instrument for this ad, it will always stand out. Then the emotional part, the piano is going to carry that. Piano carries that. And then we come back at the celebration. And so it keeps playing like a loop throughout, because there are other instruments that are carrying the dynamic. Like, for example, the piano has dynamics in it, but when this plays, it doesn't play throughout. It plays at those different sections. But when it plays that loop that will stick and imprint itself on someone's mind. So that's the intention of using it instead of the marimba. So you can clearly see here I muted the marimba that we had started with. It was good because it laid ground for the entire idea of this ad, but its character is normal. So I used this horner just to with the same melody line that the marimba was playing, but for it to become memorable. So that together with the choir without the rhythm section. So let me just play the choir, piano, the flute, and my horner. So when you play it just like that, it's beautiful, but it lacks, because of who we are as Africa. We're very rhythmic, so it doesn't quite hit home, and that's why we need the rhythm section. So let's put our rhythm section together with our bass and listen. All of a sudden, life has come because of the rhythm section. It's not that life was not there before, it's just not home. It doesn't feel home when we don't have that rhythm section. There we go. So that's generally how I came up with the music for this ad. It has so many layers to it, but every layer has a significant role it plays to the feel of the ad. And lastly, I want to share with you how I mixed all these instruments together so that they are not fighting with each other, but they are complementing each other. So quickly, when we go to our rhythm section, just put this below. So we have our West African drums, the ensemble. So all I just did on that was EQ. I didn't want too much bottom end out of it, because I knew I had the taikos from China that were going to give me that information. So I took that out, took out some boominess out of it, and increased some of that top air in there. So this is how it sounds without it and with. So bypassed. This is with it. Without. You can feel that top end dies without it. So that's all I did. That's all I did for the West African drum ensemble. For the taikos, I also just EQ'd them. So I didn't want them to also have, because this medium is going to go to TV. So sometimes people's TVs don't reproduce these frequencies. Most TVs produce maybe from 80 Hz upwards. 60 Hz, even 80 Hz is quite a hard sell. But because people don't have these on their TVs, what tends to happen is that when I leave this information, this low information, in the recording, sorry, in the mix, what it tends to do is it overpowers the speakers, and you end up suppressing all other frequencies, because these are high energy frequencies. So what I was doing is that I was taking out frequencies from about 48 cycles and below. I did not need all that information. So these are the taikos also sound. I also took out some boominess and increased some top end. And then on the chain, it's going through a reverb. It's a short ramp. This is a native plugin from Logic, a reverb plugin. So without it, it sounds so dull. With it, it has such snap on top, but still maintains its energy. So in terms of panning, I left them in the center, because within the plugins, they pan them in the plugins themselves, so they have a wide stereo image. The next instrument was the riser. There is nothing that I did on that in terms of audio processing. The claps, all I did was really cut out that low end and that mid-range, and boost slightly 3K so that it can stand out. And this is what it sounds like without. with. So it's a subtle EQ, but it helps them stand out as much as possible. With okay, so my marimba, I remember I told you that I muted them because I didn't have need for them. Excuse me, I didn't have need for them because I had developed another instrument that was going to take on that role of the marimba. So that so the Honor, I panned it 13 degrees or to the right. Something I forgot to tell you is that the claps, I gave them some delay and reverb. The reverb I'm using is Valhalla. Valhalla is such a beautiful plugin. I really love the way it sounds. Its character is just amazing. Pre-delayed by 10 milliseconds, and it decays for about 3 seconds. So I gave that reverb. The other number 3, the other reverb I'm using is Abbey Road plates. Abbey Road plates are very beautiful. They really sound like plates. You need to try them if you have not tried them. And all I did on this is just, I think it was, I increased the wetness, removed the analog, because this analog normally tends to bring in noise. So I took the analog out. I didn't drive the plugin to add saturation and all that, but I also pre-delayed by about, the damper, which does the decay in Valhalla. Here I did about 2 seconds. So that's the plate I'm using. So for the drums, for the claps, I sent it to the plate and then I gave it delay. I already showed you the H delay. So the Honor, all I did was just give it some delay. I used the native reverb from Logic. So I used that native plugin, and that's the character for the Honor. There is a limiter on it, so because it has high transients, and all I did in terms of EQ was boost that air region and take out some of that boomy muddiness. The next instrument were my choirs, my women choir. So I panned them to the left 32 and I took them through Valhalla and I just put a compressor on it just to give me some boost. I boosted it, added some air, some top 10K, about 8 dB, about 6 dB. Then the other thing is I added some of that mid-range so that the women can stand out, and I took out 200 to remove the boominess by about 4 dB. And then they also go through the native plugin. So they're on your left, and I took them down so that they're just doing a background roll. The other choirs, I did the same thing in terms of boosting and adding that top end in around the 10K region. I didn't take it through the Space Designer. I sent it to Valhalla for reverb, and I also put it to the left. And why I put these two is because they're they're not so strong. And at the right side, we're going to have the main choir. So I wanted to increase my stereo field. So that's why I made that decision. So this is by 20 to the left. I actually did no EQ on this. There was completely nothing. They actually sound good just the way they are. Yeah. Sound amazing. Then the bass, left it in the center. All I'm doing is compressing it. Makeup gain of 7 dB. Just chopping off at minus 4 dB some of those transients that are striking through. That's all I did for the bass. And the flute, I put it on the right by 14, EQing. Sorry, this is supposed to be high passed. Put the limiter on and the space designer. That's the flute. Then the piano. So for the piano, I removed that mid-range and boosted my top end. Also my high mids, I boosted them just quite a bit for the piano to stand out and for it not to sound static. Then I love this plugin RAXX. It gives such character. So I loved how it sounded with the piano. And of course on my master bus, gluing everything together using the SSL compressor, slow attack, fast release, threshold of about 13, ratio of about 4, and then going through my saturator, SSL. This is an SSL drive, NLS bus. So with that, I glue the mix together like that, and this is what it sounds like. And that's it. So this is that's it. So this is how I approached this ad. I hope you have learned one or two things. We've helped enhance that process, and we hope that the things that I've shared today can help you in your workflow and can help you as you build up your work. I'm Ahuurra, and I look forward to the next workshop we shall be having together. Till then, have a nice day and stay tuned.